Good morning. I am coming to you from my home office. I have read your discussion board posts and have posted feedback for you in the associated rubric. Always be sure that when you are looking at feedback, that first that you are looking at feedback, and then make sure that you are asking questions if things are unclear. One of the ways in an online environment that we communicate is through you submitting assignments and me providing feedback. That's also how you learn. So one of the ways you learn to improve your writing or improve your critical thinking skills is by submitting something and then reviewing the feedback and integrating that feedback into a change in your academic performance. So be thoughtful about reviewing the feedback, asking for questions of clarity. Discussion boards, I don't get too tangled up with specific APA details. It needs to be close. Your writing needs to flow well. It needs to make sense. The big thing is you need to adhere to the elements of the rubric that require a specific number of words to be included. The word count isn't arbitrary. The idea is that topics require a certain level of analysis or thinking to be thoroughly explored. So if you, the required number of words for your primary thread in your discussion boards is 400 words. So if you spend, let's say, 250, you've not likely spent enough time truly analyzing the topic and addressing the prompts to fully explore the topic to earn full credit. Plus, you haven't complied with the word count. And your replies also have word counts. One of the reasons, excuse me, I'm fighting a cold. One of the reasons you only have one peer reply in discussion boards in this course. And one of the reasons we do that is because what I want is substantial. I want you to be thinking about your primary post. I want you to be thoughtful about the topic. And I want your peer replies to be meaningful to the person that you're replying to. Sometimes when we add that one more peer reply, it becomes a logistical thing. It's I've just got to get it done. Do one and do it well in your peer replies. If you put two peer replies because that's been your habit in prior courses, you've not harmed anything. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just one more step that you didn't have to do. Your voice threads, which you're going to do for week 2, reflect the same flow of your discussion boards. What I'm asking for you to do in a voice thread is simply have a higher level of engagement. I want to see you explore your thoughts visually using a well-developed short PowerPoint. I want to hear you verbalize, articulate your ideas clearly instead of writing them in a narrative like you do a discussion board. And you're also going to peer reply, so you're going to engage in comment exchange in the voice thread. So we'll talk about that in just a moment. Let me back up just a few steps and talk about your introductions to the course. I asked you to do a voice thread so you could practice it. Be sure that if that information voice thread didn't go the way you wanted it to, that you tweak that process when you do the voice thread for week 2. I went on last night. I teach clinical on Mondays with undergraduate students, and I thought, I'll go in and just make sure everybody did it. And I started watching a few, and it's like, oh, these are really good. So I wound up watching all. I think there were 22 of them. So it's like 9:30. My husband's like, "What on earth are you doing?" I was like, "I am being entertained." First, you all are some beautiful people with beautiful families. Thank you for taking the time to so thoughtfully share part of your bubble with me. I appreciate your approach to that. So many of you travel after you all graduate. Many of you are graduating soon. My hope is that you stay connected and maybe think about doing some traveling together. You guys are an adventurous group. I love how clear you are about the things that are meaningful for you, and you guys know this is your second nursing degree, so you understand that our education is a journey. It isn't a sprint that we rush through, that we really are heading somewhere. So I appreciate the fact that you so willingly showed the things that were supportive, the things that were meaningful for you in how you've navigated one more nursing degree. Many of you talked about looking at the next step of graduate school, of a master's degree. Be really conscientious about what you do with that master's degree. My favorite degree, I think, was probably my master's degree. My DNP was, my terminal degree, which was a lot of fun. I did it with Case Western, learned a lot, but I felt like my master's degree was was the degree I had fun with. It was the one I was in nursing leadership. So something I was really passionate about. It was I was working in leadership at the time with an organizational position, and I just got it. And so my encouragement is that whatever you do in your graduate degree, that you are truly passionate about, and that's the thing that you are excited about. Note that USC Upstate is finalizing the plan for a nurse educator master's degree and then a nurse leader master's degree. So if you know that you don't want to do necessarily a nurse practitioner degree, a practice degree, know that there's some other master's degrees out there, and that we have those options that are going to be opening up pretty soon at USC Upstate. There's also nothing wrong with looking outside the place you got your last degree. I'm someone that thinks a diversified academic portfolio really matters. I have 4 degrees and they're from 4 different places. Like you all, I started out with an associate degree. So I think there's value in looking at other places instead of the last place you got a degree. I also think there's comfort in familiarity. Just be thoughtful about that process. So the introductions were super well done. Really appreciate that. I enjoyed reading your discussion boards. So many of you, the comment that I heard consistently was, when I looked at my average numbers, I'm right in the middle of the pack in my decision-making skills. And folks, that's perfectly okay. Most of us are right in the middle of the pack. We're all still learning, and I so appreciated those of you that said, I've got some things I can learn. I've been a nurse 26 years, and I am still learning about ways that I need to do things differently and about how I can slow down my decision making. I tend to be an intuitive, emotional decision maker, so it really requires intentional effort for me to slow down and really think through all of my options, to ask other people's opinions and just to be still with decision making. I joke, sometimes I feel like I'm running with a pair of scissors. I've just got to get something done, and I'm so busy trying to get it done that sometimes the process I use isn't as clear as it needs to be. So lots of great insights. One of your classmates wrote specifically about informal leaders, and I appreciate the fact that several of you said, I have no desire to be in a formal leadership position. And I think there is nothing wrong with not wanting to be in a formal leadership position. The truth is, I think many of us know it's a thankless task. You don't get paid substantially more, and you have substantially more headaches, challenges, opportunities, things that really require you to spend an enormous amount of mental and emotional energy. So I get that. What I do want to remind you is, no matter where you are in your professional practice, we're leading somebody. Maybe we're leading patient care. So just be mindful that's out there. Your classmate, Sarah. Sarah wrote in the last part of her discussion board, many times we only think of nurse leaders as those in management. However, informal nurse leaders are those who are not appointed by an organization. This type of leader, usually a staff nurse, supports the organizational goals and uses their influence, which is mainly through relationship building, knowledge, and expertise to advocate for patients and families. The informal leadership role has the potential to improve patient care and safety. And she has an in-text citation from Bondman 2018. As nurses, it's our responsibility to do what we can to improve patient safety. And as we learn new leadership skills in this class, it's our responsibility to implement those skills that we learn. Sarah did a really nice job of connecting how we can leverage our leadership concepts into advocacy and patient outcomes. And I think that's such a key step, that regardless of who you're leading, our outcome needs to be improve patient outcomes, improve patient satisfaction, and our own sense of professional pride and satisfaction. Lots of good things come when we heighten our awareness to the role of leadership. So I think Sarah did a really nice job kind of putting the exclamation point of what it means to lead somebody even informally. So I appreciate that. The chime you hear, if you ever hear it on a video, it is not my doorbell. My loving husband gave me a grandfather clock. I had to think of the word. And so invariably I'm doing a video and it will stop and start on the top of the hour. And of course it's 10 a.m. here in Greenville, South Carolina. So that chime is going to should chime 10 times. While I'm waiting for that to stop chiming, as you can see, my teaching assistants are behind me. Madeline is the big puppy, Gracie's the little one. They may or may not reappear when you get videos from me. Every once in a while, they'll kick off and they'll start barking like someone is trying to break in and steal their mom. I assure you, we live in a safe neighborhood. Nothing bad is happening. But Gracie especially is super vigilant over talking to anybody that passes the front window, and that would include leaves, the wind, friendly mailmen, whoever it is. So if you ever see them and they're barking, please know that's just them. Let's talk just a minute about your voice threads. If you've had prior experience with VoiceThread, then tackling that tiger is going to be pretty straightforward. What I do want to remind you is that every VoiceThread in this course has 2 steps. First, you're going to develop just the slides for your PowerPoint, and then you're going to load them into VoiceThread. Within VoiceThread, you're going to add your narrative. Do not complete a voiceover PowerPoint with the narrative within PowerPoint and then upload the whole thing to VoiceThread. It weighs down the system and it doesn't function properly once you get it in there. So do your PowerPoint slides, the visual piece, load it into VoiceThread, and then use the comment feature to add the comments to each slide so that it kind of moves like a movie. That's part 1. So once you get part 1 done, then afterwards you're going to go in and you're going to reply to a classmate's voice thread on a topic that is different than your own. So you were given some choices about your voice thread. The learning exercises, there's a bunch of them in chapter 4s and 5s. I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 7 options. So if you choose to do 4.4, reply back to someone who did not do 4.4. The idea is I want you to be looking at 2 different case scenarios. I want to remind you that you're not doing the assignment associated with those case scenarios. You're going to read the scenarios and then you're going to answer my questions. And my questions are on your voice thread. I think there's 4. Yes, there are 4 of them. And the idea is that you are looking at the Code of Ethics for Nursing. You're looking at how it's 2 specific Code of Ethics of Nursing can apply to that specific scenario. And you're going to be addressing legal and ethical issues. My Spark video yesterday, gave you an overview of legal and ethical and how they're different. Be sure as you do your voice thread that you don't just address ethical issues, that you separate them out and you address ethical and legal issues, because there can be things that that we believe are ethical but don't have a legal basis, and there are things that are legal that are unethical. So I want you to have clarity about which you're dealing with and talk about the scenario that you're exploring. Be thoughtful about this. Take your time with this. Remember that your PowerPoint slides should be aesthetic. They should capture people's attention. They should be professional. So as you design those, keep your audience in mind. And the audience of 1 is me, so I'm going to be doing your grading. But you're also wanting to kind of pull your peer group in. So be mindful of that. So part 1 is to do your primary thread. Part 2 is to then go in and reply to a classmate who did a topic different than your own. The last thing you're going to do after you do that peer reply is you're going to share. Actually, you can share your primary thread. I don't care which thread you share, either your primary or your reply thread. I need you to share something, and it's easier, I think, to share your primary thread. So once you do that first peer reply, you're going to copy that link and you're going to submit that in Blackboard. I know this sounds weird, but the only way that I can apply your grade and get it into Gradebook and then give you feedback using the rubric is we have to stimulate Blackboard and say, hey, there's something there. VoiceThread is embedded into Blackboard, but the grading system is not integrated. So I can't hook the rubric that you're going to be using to guide your writing or your presentation into VoiceThread. So we have to do a workaround. So primary thread, once you get it done, hit share, copy that link, drop it into Blackboard, and you're done. What that link does, and you can put it in the comment section or just open in the profile, wherever you want. What it does is it pops open the rubric and it says, hey, Dr. Hutchins, the student has submitted something, and I can go in and give you feedback using the rubric. So that's a key step. If you go into VoiceThread and you do your primary thread and you do your peer replies and you don't post it in Blackboard, I'm going to get nothing. So I won't be able to grade it. So that last step is important. I've given you the instructions in under the assignment tab. So as long as you're reading things, all that stuff is there. I'm just reminding you, hey, don't forget. Real briefly, I want to talk about APA. be sure that you are using APA appropriately, and that you are using your book or whatever resource you're using to annotate things properly. Something that I saw pretty commonly was lots of use of direct quotes. Now, and I suspect that in your previous degrees, maybe in previous courses, you have used that. If I direct quote, then I know I'm not plagiarizing, and there's comfort in that. And you're absolutely correct. So you're using a direct quote and you properly reference it and cite it. That is avoiding plagiarism. What it is not avoiding is flow and authentic thought. So when I read a paragraph and it has 3 or 4 direct quotes, what I know is that you can line up a direct quote in a paragraph. What I don't know is, do you understand what that author wrote? So the value of reading an author's work and using your own words to say, Brown in 2018, parentheses, explained that leadership was a key element in patient outcomes, period. That tells me that you read several elements of that person's work and you understood it and you put it contextually in the right place in a paper. That's the value of using your own words, using APA in-text citations, which is the I'm not stealing, I'm not plagiarizing piece of it, but you're embedding that in the body of your own work using your own voice. And that is a higher level of writing. So where it becomes problematic when you use lots of direct quotes is it disrupts the flow of your writing. So as I'm reading, I get tangled up in, okay, the author, the student is saying this, and all of a sudden I'm listening to somebody else's voice. And sometimes you're not, it's challenging to integrate your own voice and their voice. Now let me give you the zebra of direct quotes, the unique and every once in a while. If a direct quote is succinct and it is super powerful, there's no better way to say something. There is nothing wrong with using an occasional direct quote, but it needs to be remarkable. It needs to not be common jargon and lingo that is just somebody else's words. You don't want to use it as filler. You have 400 words and 150 of them are somebody else's words. That's not the most scholarly approach. So be mindful of that approach with direct quotes. I think that was the biggest one. I'm looking at my notes. When you use references, when you are required to use a reference for an assignment, when I say you need to use a reference, that means that you have used that reference in the body of your work. And that means that you have used an in-text citation. So let's say you have an assignment and I've for the VoiceThread, and I've given you the learning assignment where you have to go in and read 4.4. If all you do is read 4.4 and use it to add to answer my questions, that's not a reference use. That's you doing an assignment. Now, if you copy pieces of it, which would not be the best practice, but if you use something verbatim from it, then you're going to want to do an in-text citation and reference it. Tagging a reference at the bottom of something because you read a book to understand a concept, that's not referencing, that's learning. So understand the difference. When you're doing a reference, you're going to do an in-text citation saying, in the body of my work, I have used someone else's key ideas and I'm giving them proper credit by using an in-text citation. And then you'll wrap up by putting a reference at the end of it. So just be thoughtful about where you're using references and understanding that it needs to be cited in the body of your work. Otherwise, you guys did a great job. I think those are all my notes. Know that I'm here. Online learning can feel pretty like a lonely existence. I am just an email away. My office number is listed. I am rarely, if I'm in my office, I'm almost always with students. That doesn't mean don't use it. You always feel comfortable giving me a call, but know that I'm not likely to pick up the phone and go, hey, how are you? But I can get back with you. The easiest way to get a hold of me is to send me an email and say, hey, Dr. Hutchins, can we talk? I'm happy to set up a time for you and I to talk on the phone or meet in my office at a time that's convenient for you. Just know that if you're walking through an assignment and you're guessing, don't hesitate to use the Ask the Professor link for common logistics, like where can I find, what does this mean kind of things. Something specific to you, send me directly in an email. You're not alone in this. So don't feel like you figure everything out. I think that's it. I will look forward to seeing your voice threads and giving you feedback and being in touch next week. Y'all take care.